Hello everyone, I am Aakash Nair, Assistant Professor of Law at IIMT College of Law. Today, we will be discussing about the preamble of the Constitution of. So let us read the text of the preamble of the Constitution and let us understand why it is significant and has a constitutional value attached to it, right? So the Constitution of India. We, the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a democratic republic and to secure it to its all citizens justice, social, economic, and political, liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith, and worship, equality of status and of opportunity, and to promote among them all fraternity, assuring the dignity of the individual and the unity and integrity of India. In our Constitutional Assembly, this 26th day of November 1949, do hereby adopt, enact, and give to ourselves this Constitution. So, when we read the text of the preamble, we can understand that it is a constitution that we give to ourselves. That is, we, the people of India, are giving this constitution to ourselves, right? So the text itself, that is the we the people of India, the expression has been inspired from the American Constitution, right? So it is not that some other entity or some other power has given us this constitution. At the time of independence, that is 1947, and at the time of adoption of the constitution, that is 1950, we the people of India made this constitution, and the constitution, after the approval of the Constitutional Assembly, we have given this constitution to ourselves. So the preamble of the constitution embodies and envisages certain constitutional values that we should all look up to. What are those constitutional values? That is, solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign state. Right? We are sovereign, and there is no other higher power than us. There is no external power which is controlling us. We are sovereign in ourselves. Right? Second is socialist. Then we have secular, democratic, and republic. These are the values that the Constitution envisages, right? And we also seek to secure what is that is assured, that we aspire to secure, that is justice. Justice not only in terms of legal justice, but it also includes social, economic, and political justice, right? Liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith, and worship. Then there is equality. Equality, when we talk about equality, it is the equality of status and opportunity. And there is fraternity with respect to the individual dignity and unity and integrity of India. And finally, we are assuring what are the two things that the preamble assures to us, that is the dignity of individual and the unity and integrity of nations. Now, let us look at each of these terms and understand the nature of the preamble, right? So, the philosophy of the Constitution, what the Constitution envisages, what are its objectives, the ideals that we look up to, right? Everything has been provided under the preamble, right? Even it has been said that the entire Constitution is merely a footnote to the preamble, right? So the preamble has a very significant value. It has a philosophical value, right? Then it is a key to open the minds of the constitutional makers. So we all know that after independence, a constitutional assembly was constituted, and it was entrusted with the duty to formulate a constitution, to draft a constitution. And we know that it was drafted and the preamble was accepted only after the constitution was constructed, right? And we also know that the preamble of the constitution was taken from drafted by the then Prime Minister Mr. Jawaharlal Nehru, and it was taken from the objective resolution which was passed in the 1947. Right now, the words and the expressions that have been used has a significance, and those words have to be taken care of. We have to whenever we read a provision of the Constitution, we have to see whether it is in alignment or in harmony with the preamble of the Constitution, right? So it is a key to open the minds of the constitution makers, right? Next, we have it envisages the ideals and aspirations coming out of the freedom. So we all know that India had to struggle for 200 years to get its freedom, right? The Britishers had occupied us, and only after a great deal of struggle and the freedom movement, the India got its independence. So the ideals and the aspirations of the our forefathers has been put in the preamble of the Constitution. So these are the ideals that we all have to look up to and live by. Right? Now let us talk about the constitutional value of the preamble. Initially, it was debated that the preamble is not part of the Constitution. It is merely a preface, but it cannot be considered as part of the Constitution. And it was held by the Supreme Court in the case of Re-Barwari case in 1960, right? But in the Keshwanand Bharti case, which was in 1973, in the landmark judgment of Keshwanand Bharti, it was accepted that preamble is part of the Constitution. In fact, it is part of the basic structure of the Constitution. That is, the words and the words of the preamble are amendable, provided the basic structure of the Constitution is not affected. The essence of the Constitution is not affected, right? So let us discuss about sovereignty, right? India is a sovereign state. What does sovereignty means? It is the supreme and absolute power inherent in the sovereign state, acknowledging no other superior authority. So India is under the authority of no other person. It is we, the people of India, who have the sovereignty over India, right? So India accepts the earlier in British India, India bowed down to the British crown, right? But now, after the independence and the acceptance of the Constitution, it has been we have resolved that India holds the sovereignty, right? And we are inferior to nobody. Next, sovereignty vested in the people of India. So it is a very important. After the independence, the India Independent Act was formulated, right? It was enacted, under which during the period of making of the Constitution, it was applicable. It is not the India Independence Act which gives us the sovereignty, right? It is inherent power. The supreme and absolute power is inherent in such, because we are Indians, and we the people of India have solemnly resolved to make it our constitution, right? Uh, Now talking about, so constitution is an autochthony, that is self-born, making it sacrosanct. So it is self-born. It is not reliant on any other authority. We all talk about the grand norm of Kelsen, right? So the grand norm of Kelsen says that there is a norm, and a norm derives its authority from a grand norm from which all the powers are drawn. But we consider our constitution to be an autochthony, that is self-born. It is self-born and it does not derive from any other authority. Right? Now, Indian state has the power to legislate on all branches subject to. Now, there are two limitations. The power of under the Constitution, it has been given that Indian state has the power to legislate on all branches, except they have to keep in mind the limitations. First, the limitation as to division of power between states. It is the distribution of power that has to be taken care of, right? Between the center and the state. So, secondly, the fundamental rights. So, Part 3 of the Constitution provides for the fundamental rights. So, it has to be kept in mind that the fundamental rights of the individuals that is be provided in the Constitution should not be affected. Now, there is an important note that the membership of Commonwealth of Nation does not detract from sovereignty. So, since India is a Commonwealth nation, right? India has got its independence from the British India and the British government. Uh, Even though we are members of the Commonwealth nation, it does not mean that we have ceded our sovereignty. Now the next term is socialist. So the term socialist did not exist in the original text of the constitution, right? The original text of the constitution did not have sovereignty. It was inserted only after the 42nd amendment in 1976, right? However, the essence of socialism existed in the constitution in the article 39b and c, right? So it is borrowed from the Soviet Union, as we call the constitution is a bag of borrowings. It is popularly said. So so the term socialist has been borrowed from the Soviet Union, the constitution of Soviet Union. Right? In DS Nakara versus Union of India 1983, the Supreme Court observed that Indian socialism. Now, the Supreme Court is explaining what is Indian socialism. So, the Indian socialism is a blend of Marxist socialism and Gandhian socialism. So, it is a blend of Marxist socialism, that is the socialism provided by Karl Marx himself, and the Gandhian socialism leaning heavily in the favor of Gandhian socialism. So now what is Gandhian socialism? So let us see. Gandhian socialism includes decent standard of life for all, right? It is talking about egalitarianism. That is, there should be a decent standard of living for all. Economic equality. There should be economic equality. There should not be income inequality between the rich and the poor, right? As we can see now that there is a huge gap in income parity, right? There is inequality between the rich and the poor. So the Gandhian socialism talked about that there should be economic equality. Thirdly, we have the equitable distribution of income. So there should be equitable distribution of income. Now, note that it is not talking about equal distribution of income. Equal distribution of income would mean that if I am earning 100 rupees, then everyone should have earn 100 rupees. No, this is not the concept. It is talking about equitable distribution. That is, each person should earn according to his ability, right? If he is providing something, some services, he should be paid the equal amount. There should be equitable distribution and not equal distribution, right? Now, in the case of Delhi Science Forum versus Union of India 1996, the new economic policy was challenged. So we all know that in 1991, the new economic policy was adopted by India, and the three concepts, that is globalization, privatization, and liberalization, was adopted in the Indian economic policy, right? So in the new economic policy was challenged, and the primary argument was that privatization and globalization plays down socialism. Now, in this case, the Supreme Court held that firstly, the Constitution does not lay any economic policy, right? Secondly, laws cannot be invalidated only on the ground of preamble. Now, it is an important point. We have to see that no economic policy can be challenged merely on the basis that it does not concur or it does not adhere to the constitutional values of the Constitution. It has to be concretely found, it is violative of some of the provisions of the Constitution, right? The preamble has to be read in with the provisions of the Constitution to call in any economic policy under challenge. Right? Secondly, so we have discussed. Secondly, laws cannot be invalidated only on the ground of preamble. Right? Thirdly, one second. Thirdly, socialism will continue to have different meaning unless a necessity arrives to delete it. So socialism also has an evolving character. So we have talked about that there is a Marxist socialism, there is Gandhian socialism. As we progress, as the Indian society progress, there may be a different definition of Indian socialism, right? So let us now talk about secularism. So what is secular meant in the constitution? So firstly, we have to understand that it was not did not exist in the original text of the constitution. It was inserted only in the only through the 42nd amendment in 1976. However, the essence of secularism can be found in Article 25 of the Constitution, which provides for freedom of conscience and freedom to profession, practice, and propagation of religion. So the essence of secularism can be found under Article 25. Now, according to D.E. Smith, a secular state. So now it is providing the definition of secular state. A secular state gives freedom of religion, right? Not constitutionally connected with a particular religion. The secular state shall not align itself or be connected with a particular religion. It does not seek to promote or interfere with a religion. So it is an important point that it does not seek to promote or interfere with any religion. It deals with an individual as a citizen irrespective of religion. So there is no discrimination based or no favoritism based on the religion, right? An individual is seen as a citizen only and irrespective of his religion. Fifthly, equality of religion instead of state neutrality. It is an important point. State neutrality means that we will not interfere with your religion. We have nothing to do with your religion. We only try to maintain the law and order and the public order situation. We will not promote your religion or we will not interfere with your religion. That is state neutrality. But according to D. Smith, we talk about and even in our constitution, it is Sarv Dharm Nirpeksh, that is state neutrality, right? In ZB Bukhari versus B.R. Mehra case, Justice Gajendra Gatkar observed that secular means there is no discrimination within the state on the ground of religion, right? So there should not be any discrimination between two religions, right? Now, if we talk about India, India has positive secularism. That is, state not only to interfere in any religion, that is state neutrality, that we will not interfere with any religion. But in India, in our constitution, it is positive secularism. That is state not only to interfere in any religion, but also to take necessary positive steps for ensuring equality of religion. So now it is very important for you to take necessary positive steps for ensuring equality of religion. Suppose we have a majority. Our religion, a majority has a particular religion, and there is a minority which has a particular religion. Inequality is already existing in the society, right? Maybe due to many reasons, and there is a status quo. Now, state neutrality means that we will not interfere with whatever is going with the religion. We will only focus on maintaining the law and order and that the constitutional principles are followed, right? But in positive secularism, it talks about that if there is a minority and it being subjugated or it has been being persecuted, then the state will take positive steps of this positive steps to ensure that equality is maintained, right? Equality is established first and then it is maintained. So the state has a positive responsibility to protect a religion from persecution and from execution, right? Let us move on to democratic. So the term democratic. So it means government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Now, the term people, the people, irrespective of the factors such as caste, religion, economic level, etc., are equal in the eyes of law and manage their own affairs. So it again we can tag it with the other values also that we have talked about earlier, that the citizen should not be seen from the lens of a caste perspective or on the basis of religion or economic level. We have to see them as citizens themselves, right? And they are equal in the eyes of law and manage their own affairs. In Indian democracy, in India, democracy is indirect, popular, and representative. Indirect means that we elect our MLAs, we elect our MPs, then they elect the head of the institution, head of the nation, right? They then elect the prime minister or they then elect the chief minister. It is popular, of course, it is popular. So that is there is a voting procedure. We all have the right to vote, right? So based on the popularity, whoever gets the majority becomes whoever wins the election becomes the majority party and governs. then it is representatives, right? We ourselves are not going to the parliament and telling them, raising our issues. We go to our parliamentarians or we go to our MLAs and tell that we have so and so problem. And those problems they take to the parliament or the state legislature, right? So it is representative. Now, how does democracy is sustained in the Indian Constitution? Firstly, it is the adult suffrage. Adult suffrage means that every person who is of 18 or above age has a right to vote, right? Adult suffrage. So that is provided under Article 326. Then we have the fundamental rights under Part 3. We have the independent judiciary. Independent judiciary is very necessary to ensure that democratic values are not uh, uh, diluting, right? Democratic values are not diluting or being infringed upon. So independent judiciary is another tool. Then executive responsibility to legislature. So executive responsibility means that the council of the prime minister and the council of ministers are responsible to the legislature. They are responsible to the legislature. They are responsible to the electoral college, right? Because we, the people of India, have elected them, then they have the responsibility to explain themselves. They have a responsibility towards us, right? Now, people participation. It is very important. So, people participation, how people participation is ensured? Through RTI, that is right to information, self-governance, and free and fair election. So, in Indira Gandhi versus Raj Narayan, that is a case of 1975, Supreme Court held that democracy is part of the basic structure of the Indian Constitution, which includes free and fair election. Right? In R.C. Pondyal versus Union of India, 1993, Supreme Court observed that democracy is the people's power and the state's power vests in the people. So, democratic values, what does democratic values tell us? That at the end, it is the power vests in the people of India, right? Now, moving on to republic. So, let us talk about republic. Now, first of all, the term republic has been borrowed from the French Constitution. So we all remember that there was a French Revolution, right? After that, the French Constitution was accepted. Uh, the French the French Revolution discarded the monarchy system, right? The absolute power of the monarchy, and they constitution themselves as a republic nation. No, so India has borrowed the term republic from the French Constitution. India is a republic nation, right? What does republic mean? That the executive head is not hereditary. That is, there is no monarchy, there is no dictatorship. The head is not from a monarchy. The head is not from a family of lords or from monarchy, right? Now, let the person that heads the executive head is elected indirectly. That we know, our executive head is elected indirectly and for a fixed period of 5 years. Our government is chosen by the people, right? We have the popular democracy. The government is chosen by the people. The executive is responsible to the legislature, and the legislature is responsible to the electoral college. I think we have discussed this point, and it again comes under the republic section. Right? Now, talking about justice. So, when we talk about justice, it is not merely the justice that had been provided by the legal system, right? We are also talking about social justice, economic justice, and political justice. So it means a harmonization of interest between the individual and the society. So in society, we know that there are various interests. There are individual interests. There are community interests. Uh, so we can say that justice is the harmonization of interest between the individuals and the society, right? Now, it is not merely the administration of legal justice, it has three facets. So, what are the three facets we have discussed just now? Social justice. Social justice means equality of treatment of citizens irrespective of their social status. So, what are the provisions? What are the fundamental rights that is given? It is covered under Article 14, Article 15, Article 23, 38, 43, etc. Right? these provisions of the Constitution promote social justice. Then we have the economic justice, that is bringing the gap between the rich and the poor. Now, Article 39 of the Constitution is considered as the charter of economic justice. Now, then we have the political justice, that is equal participation of all in the political process. We have discussed. So we have the participation of public in the just we have equal participation, right? Now, Ambedkar has said, Dr. Ambedkar, what has Dr. Ambedkar said? In politics, we will be recognizing on the principle of one man, one vote, right? We all cast our vote and we have equal number of vote. Even if the prime minister casts his vote or the president casts, or even if a ordinary person casts a vote, they both have a same single vote, right? One man, one vote. In social and economic life, we shall, by reason of our social and economic structure, continue to deny the principle of one man and one value. So we have to understand why this is important, because there is lot of social and economic inequality in our country, right? So if we adopt the principle of one man, one vote, or one man, one value, then it will further promote, further increase or increase social inequality and economic inequality in our system. So we have to what we call adopt positive discrimination. We have to positively discriminate to balance the inequality, right? To to uh, sh- to bring the, that is to reduce the gap between the rich and the poor. That is why this principle has to be adopted. Now let us talk about liberty, equality, and fraternity. Right? Now this term has been again borrowed from the French Constitution after the French Revolution. Liberty is based on the principle that is laissez-faire concept. Laissez-faire means that the state has given a free hand to its public, to its people, to live as they want, and they do not interfere in their life unless and until a public order situation or a collective or a community interest is involved. They do not interfere, right? The liberty has two notions, that is two aspects. First, positive and negative. Negative means absence of interference in individual action. So the state will not interfere in the actions of the individuals. Secondly, that is positive notion, that is the state will state to positively remove obstacles to liberty, as we have seen in the definition of secularism as well. The state has a positive responsibility to remove obstacles to liberty. If there exists inequality, if there exists that there is a restriction on the freedom of certain individuals, then the state will take action, positive actions to remove the obstacles and ensure that liberty is maintained. So we can see it in the Article 17. We can also see it in Article 23, Article 7, right? So moving on, liberty, but when we talk about liberty, it is not absolute liberty. Liberty is restricted by reasonable restrictions, right? The liberty is restricted by reasonable restrictions. So if we see Article 19, we have the fundamental freedoms, but it has been restricted by the reasonable restrictions, right? Now, moving on, equality. When we talk about equality, we mean two things, that is equality before law and equal protection of law, right? It also means equality of status and equality of opportunity. Again, it has three dimensions, that is the social, political, and economic dimensions. So this concept will be further discussed when we will be discussing about Article 14, Article 15, that is right to equality. It will be further discussed. Now we're talking about fraternity. Fraternity means common brotherhood of all Indians. So we all Indians consider ourselves to be brothers. I hope we all remember that in our books, in our textbooks in school, NCRT textbooks, we have seen that if the first page of our textbooks contained the preamble. I'm sure you must be remembering that the first page of our textbooks, every textbook, be it science, be it commerce, be it arts, any textbook from primary to the higher to the senior secondary, in every class, in every textbook, we could find that the first page of the first page of the book contains the preamble of the book. Why is it so? It is to promote fraternity among individuals, to ensure that the constitutional principles reaches to the people and people know that we all are brothers, right? To promote fraternity among, and to make them aware about the constitutional, our aspirations, our goals, right? So when we talk about fraternity, we are talking about our concept of Vasudev Kutumbakam, right? That the entire world is one family. So fraternity is Vasudev Kutumbakam. We can also use this analogy, right? Now let us talk about dignity of individual. Now dignity of individual, we have the fundamental rights and the state directive principles which aims towards achieving this goal. Recently we had the situation of COVID, right? We all remember the situation of COVID, where a large section of migrant population had to shift overnight, right? At that time we could see that the dignity of individual could not be maintained. Unfortunately, because of the situation, because of the law and order situation, there was a humanitarian crisis, we can say human rights humanitarian crisis, right? So it is the duty of the state, and it has to ensure that each individual has the dignity. We can take the example of manual scavenging. The Supreme Court has prohibited the act of manual scavenging. Still, it has manual scavenging. We all know that a person, a worker, enters a porthole, right? The sewers and cleans it up manually. That is manual scavenging, right? So that has been, but why that practice was prohibited? Because it affects the dignity of the individual, right? Even in this modern age, if a person, our brother, has to enter a sewage and clean it manually, then we have to see the situation, right? How can we allow that? uh, right? So for that, do we have to ensure? So what are the provisions? We can say Article 17, Article 21, 23. Then the primary objective of fraternity is to promote and preserve and promote the dignity of the individual. It is protected by the judiciary under Article 32 and 226. So the last term that we are going to discuss today is unity and integrity of nation. Under Article 51, we know that we have certain fundamental duties, and one of the fundamental duty is that every citizen to uphold. It is the duty, fundamental duty of every citizen to uphold and protect the sovereignty, unity, and integrity of India. So, if any person is talking about breaking India, or is talking about against India, then we have a responsibility to ensure that such person should not feel such way. That, see, he has a right to he has a freedom of speech, right? But such freedom has to be used very mindfully, right? So we should ask him why he's speaking like that, and we should ensure and give him the confidence that the nation is with him. So the we should ensure that there should be unity and integrity of the nation. Right. Thank you so much. This is all for today. I hope that it was a fruitful session, and I hope that in the next session we can have a more fruitful discussion. Thank you so much.